Okay, so let's just completely candid for a second. Off the record, if you had to name the single biggest pain point for pharma commercial teams right now, what would it be? For me, it has to be the broken state of engaging with healthcare professionals. It's a real bottleneck.
It's absolutely the bottleneck. And the frustrating part is the irony of it all. I mean, think about the last, 5, 6 years. The industry has poured a ton of money into tech. We've got best-in-class CRMs like Viva, fancy expense tools, very strict FMV calculators. We have more tools than we've ever had.
Right, more tools.
And yet, every single field team I talk to, MSLs, reps, you name it, they all feel less efficient. They feel bogged down. And what's worse, they feel more exposed to risk, not less.
Because they're trying to manage compliance across, 7 different systems?
Exactly. We solve these little individual problems in silos, but in doing so, we accidentally created this huge collective monster of complexity. And that's really what we call the compliance paradox.
The compliance paradox. I like that.
Yeah, the paradox is that every single tool was brought in to reduce risk. That was the whole point. But because they don't talk to each other, you get this overwhelming burden of manual steps. And that just increases the chance for human error, for frustration, and it actually makes real compliance harder.
So the goal was safety, but the result was this technological maze.
A maze, yeah.
So for our deep dive today, let's try to unpack that maze. We really need to diagnose this gas versus brakes conflict that's happening every day. Then figure out why the old way of just adding more tools failed. And finally, look at what's next. What's the solution?
That tension, gas versus brakes, it really defines the job for the modern field force. Commercial wants to go fast, they need to be agile, build relationships. That's the gas pedal.
But compliance has to pump the brakes.
Constantly. They need that paper trail for the auditors, which means approvals, checks, paperwork. It's all about slowing down to be safe.
And what's so important for you, the listener, to get is that this isn't just a little friction. It's like a massive hidden tax on every single interaction an MSL or rep has.
It is. We should make it real. Let's talk about a rep. Let's call her Melanie.
Okay, Melanie, the cardiology rep.
Yeah. And she has a very simple strategic goal. She wants to engage Dr. Taylor, a regional expert, for a paid consultation. Simple.
Should be simple, but then her defensive workflow kicks in.
It does. So first she's in the CRM. That's logical. She confirms Dr. Taylor's in her territory.
Standard stuff.
But that's where the simplicity ends. Now she has to minimize that window, open a browser, and log into a totally separate license verification portal.
Just to check if his license is active today. System number 2.
System 2. Then that system doesn't know what she can actually pay him. So now she's opening the standalone FMV calculator.
Which is probably just a clunky spreadsheet, let's be honest.
It often is. So she's manually typing in his specialty, his location, the meeting length.
Okay, but that FMV tool doesn't know about spending limits, right?
Not at all. So that's system number 4. She has to go to the spend and transparency system to see what he's been paid so far this year to make sure she's not about to cross some state or company limit.
Hold on, why are these tools separate? I mean, if you know the doctor's specialty and location for FMV, why isn't that just part of the main system?
Because the policies are so custom and they change all the time. Legal and compliance, they need every FMV calculation to be 100% defensible. They won't let that logic get buried deep inside a big CRM. They demand a separate, verifiable system.
So the silo is there for compliance reasons, but it's just killing efficiency.
It's deadly for efficiency. And Melanie's not even done.
Oh, come on.
No, after all that, she still needs to open the relevant policy PDF, probably a 20-page document, and skim it to make sure this type of activity is even allowed for Dr. Taylor.
And only then, after all that, she goes back to the CRM to finally log her intent to do something.
And then she pings compliance for a final review. That whole sequence, that's 40 to 50 minutes of her time.
50 minutes of admin before the real work even starts.
That is the hidden tax. Multiply that across a field force of, say, 500 people. You're burning millions of dollars in lost productivity. Her brain isn't thinking, how can I add value for Dr. Taylor? It's thinking, oh God, did I miss a step?
And this creates some really bad habits, right? It's not just annoying.
It creates 3 really negative behaviors. The first is obvious. Context switching. Jumping between 7 apps just tanks your focus. You make sloppy mistakes.
Okay. And the second one is where the real risk is, I think. People start creating their own shortcuts.
Shadow workflows. Exactly. When the official path takes an hour, you're going to find a quicker way.
So are you saying that compliance thinks they have this perfect audit trail, But in reality, they're only seeing the 10% of activity that actually followed the rules.
That is precisely what's happening. The rep has to hit their targets, so maybe they use an old spreadsheet because the official tool is too slow. They might skip a check here or there. The paperwork looks perfect. But it's an illusion. It's compliance failure just waiting for an auditor to find it.
Wow. That's a huge risk. The illusion of control.
A complete illusion. And the third consequence is the most damaging strategically. Strategy gets crowded out. If every single interaction starts with this painful maze, what's the safest move?
Do less.
Do less. Stick to simple, low-risk stuff. You end up killing innovation because you've made being compliant such a chore.
So the problem is clear, but the industry's response is usually, what? Add another tool.
Always. We'll just get a shinier FMV calculator or a stricter workflow tool. We just keep adding bricks to this leaning tower, and it only makes the paradox worse.
It's that dream of the one tool to rule them all, right? And now with AI, everyone thinks there's going to be some magic AI assistant that just handles everything.
And that's a really dangerous idea in a regulated space. Regulators need evidence. They need things to be reproducible. You can't just use a creative, non-deterministic model to come up with an FMV number. You can't get vibes on a payment threshold.
Right. You need a clear audit trail, not a creative answer. So this forces a really important distinction, doesn't it? There are two different kinds of tasks here.
Absolutely crucial. The first bucket is what we call deterministic tasks. These are the hard guardrails, black and white. They have to give you the same answer every single time.
Okay, so what's in that deterministic bucket?
Things like FMV calculation logic. You know, if the policy says X, the answer is always X. Eligibility checks against official government lists. Spend caps, frequency limits, mandatory contract clauses. Things that require absolute certainty.
Got it. The rigid rules. So the second bucket is the opposite, the gray areas.
Exactly. Non-deterministic tasks. This is where you need human judgment. Relationship skills. Things like, is an advisory board even the right kind of engagement for this doctor right now? Or, how should I phrase this invitation to build trust?
That's where strategy lives.
That's strategy. And here's the conflict. If you try to solve those strategic gray area problems with rigid deterministic rules, you just crush your field team.
You turn them into robots.
But if you try to solve the hard compliance guardrails with creative non-deterministic AI, you give your compliance officers a heart attack.
And you fail your next audit. So the answer isn't one more tool, it's something else.
The answer is orchestration. It's a new mental model, and some in the industry, like the folks at Lokatial, are calling it tactical orchestration. It's a two-layer system.
2 layers. Okay, break that down for me.
The first layer is the deterministic layer. These are your hard guardrails. Think of them as small, focused, totally auditable software widgets, one for FMV rates, one for license checks. They are boring by design, but they are rock solid.
And then you put something on top of that.
Yes. On top, you have the agentic layer. This is the conversational brain. This is where the AI lives. It understands plain English, but it doesn't do the calculations itself. It just intelligently calls the right deterministic tools in the background and pulls the answers together.
So this is how we fix Melanie's day. That 50-minute scavenger hunt has to disappear.
It vanishes. Melanie doesn't open 7 tabs. She goes to one place, maybe it's in her CRM, maybe it's in Outlook, and she asks one simple strategic question.
What's the question?
She just asks, can I invite Dr. Taylor to an advisory board in Q1, and what should I budget?
And that agentic layer, the AI brain, hears that and triggers everything behind the scenes.
Instantly. It calls the FMV widget, which runs the exact policy logic. It hits the NPI and state sources for license checks. It pings the transparency table to check his current spend against the cap, all in parallel in seconds.
So what does she get back?
A single, clear answer. It says, yes, he's eligible. His current spend is $12K, well below the $25K cap. Recommended FMV for a 4-hour board is between $3,400 and $3,800. And here's the magic part.
Go on.
It then offers to draft the compliant invitation for her and log the engagement in the CRM automatically with the entire evidence trail attached.
One question. 0 tab hopping.
Oh.
A full audit trail. That's invisible compliance.
That's it exactly. And invisible doesn't mean it's a black box. It means the critical checks run automatically without being a chore for the human.
So the deterministic logic handles the black and white rules, which keeps the auditors happy.
And that frees up the human, with help from the AI, to focus on the gray areas, the strategy, the relationship, and every single answer the system gives comes with a clear rationale. You can click and see the exact policy reference or the time-stamped check. The audit process actually gets stronger.
So to wrap this all up, escaping the compliance paradox isn't about getting rid of our specialized systems. It's about keeping those guardrails, but shrinking the surface area the field team has to touch.
You orchestrate them intelligently with this agentic layer. And that is what flips compliance from being this frustrating burden into a genuine strategic advantage. It lets your teams move faster and smarter within the guardrails instead of feeling blocked by them.
It changes the whole game. And that leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener. If you can really transform that 50-minute defensive chore into a 5-second strategic move, what new initiatives could your field teams unlock next year? What does that reclaimed time and focus mean for patient outcomes? The opportunity here is to fundamentally change how the entire industry thinks about compliance.